You're not educating shit. This is propaganda. What are you going to do, like anti-trans next? Is that what you're going to do next?
I mean, no, we're talking about abortion.
This is shit. This is violent. You're triggering my students.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
No, you're not. Because you can't even have a baby. So you don't even know what that is. You don't even know what this is. Get this shit out of here, yo. This shit.
Brad, I thought men could have babies.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a little confused on that point, but I'm being facetious. But seriously, to say men can't have babies is stupid. Men do have children. They might not bear the children, but like that kind of diminishes. I hate when people use that against men on the abortion subject of like, you can't have a baby. It's like, well, actually, men are usually the one that has no decision when it comes to abortion or not having an abortion. And secondarily, when the woman does decide to have a baby, they're on the hook no matter what. So they very much do deserve a voice in this conversation. And I don't appreciate that kind of mentality whatsoever.
It's just dumb, though. The whole like no uterus, no opinion thing is just silly. I mean, politics is all about us having opinions about things that aren't directly us. I mean, you can have opinions. These people all have opinions about taxing the rich, and none of them are rich, right? Like, clearly, that's just a silly argument. But I'm more disturbed. So, for some context, this is at Hunter College, and it's Professor Shellyne Rodríguez. And so if you only heard on audio, she like flipped their stand over and threw their material and accused them of violence. I'm sorry, but advocating for your ideas, peacefully tabling, is not violent. And that's a very dangerous conflation, because if you start calling the ideas you don't like violence, that's how you immediately proceed to, well, then you can violently shut them down, and it's really just self-defense. It's a dangerous logical path to go down, and yet we're seeing a college professor who should understand the importance of the free flow of ideas and open debate, completely embracing that tortured and twisted logic.
And actually, herself embracing violence. She's the one throwing their property, trying to destroy their stand, lashing out physically. So I always find this interesting that they call speech violence and then they use it as an excuse to become violent themselves and burn down people's businesses or take their property. Like it's man, really childish. I don't think anybody should be acting this way, but if I worked at that school and administration, this kind of person would be out immediately. That is so unprofessional. It's so counterintuitive to an actual environment where you can discuss ideas and learn and grow and be challenged. This is not somebody who should be in academia because she doesn't want to think. She wants to have an echo chamber. She doesn't want anybody around her to have to think. She wants everything to be aligned with her viewpoint and for everybody to, lash on hands and sing Kumbaya and agree that everything is how she thinks it should be. And anything that challenges that, they become violent at. These are children. They are emotionally stunted people who really need to grow up. And I cannot understand. She looks like she's an older woman. She has gray hair. I don't know. Maybe she dyed it that way. I don't know. But she looks older to me. How do you get to be this age at this point in your career and you are still behaving like this? You are still unable to use words to handle disagreements. You have to lash out. You have to.
You hear how many bleeps there were in there?
I think that this should be very embarrassing for anybody caught on camera doing this. It's something that who hangs out with people like this? Who coddles them? Who makes them think this kind of behavior is normal and okay? You all need to stop it. You're doing yourselves serious disadvantages. This does nothing to advance the ideas that you want everybody else to believe in. And I think you just should never be in a position of authority if you can't handle yourself in these kinds of environments.
I would just add that the professor says my students are triggered by this. I doubt that, but even let's say that's true, then you're failing your students. I'm sorry,
right.
If you're a college and your students that are adults that are supposed to be learning can't handle the existence of people who are pro-life. Newsflash, that's roughly half the country. That's like 40-something% of the country. And if you are failing your students, you're failing to equip them to encounter the just basic peaceful presentations of mainstream ideas, then you're failing them. And those are not actual adults engaged in learning. They're basically being coddled like toddlers in ideological safe spaces and not being prepared for the real world, because the real world guess what? There's lots of people with mainstream right of center opinions on things like abortion. So no matter what you think about the underlying issue, whether you're pro-life or pro-choice, you should not support this kind of just childish and illiberal behavior that happens all too regularly. This is not a one-off outlier on our college campuses these days.
No. And actually, this reminds me of the moms of some of the peers I grew up with. And maybe you kind of had this experience too, Brad. I'm curious if this is dying out. But when their kid wouldn't get their way, let's say they didn't make a team or they didn't make the cut for a pageant in high school, their moms would show their asses and would like be up at the school yelling at the administrators, be on the phone arguing with them how it wasn't fair and how upset their child was. And oftentimes they'd win. They'd end up getting their kid those spots. And really, their kid would be embarrassed. They'd feel like super shameful for even being there because they know they didn't make the cut. But it was actually about the mom being triggered because they, were using their kids for external validation or to back up their own emotions. And that's what this reminds me of. If your students are triggered, it's probably because you're feeding them that kind of information and trying to make them that way. And they're probably like going along with you for a good grade because they're too scared to speak up against you and push back because you're clearly emotionally unsafe and unhinged. So I'm not here for her whatsoever. This is really not a good look for that college. I'm curious to see if anything comes of it. But